Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. We have a couple of elements of the financial analysis left over. We're now beginning to hear depression on CNBC. More than one of the CNBC talking heads have talked about the fact that we're now in a world economic depression. Well, it's the second wave of the world economic depression, so high time they woke up. Another CNBC expert says over the next year or two, we're headed towards Dow 5,000. Possible. Some of these things add up to deflation. I would not yet put out the call, the warning call, deflation immediately ahead, but certainly deflation has now appeared above the horizon in an unmistakable way. The main thing about deflation that the average person has to know is get out of debt. Don't incur debt, because if you have debt in a deflationary environment, that is going to kill you and crush you. So get yourself out of debt any way you can. Don't incur any new debt. The other interesting note this week is we see that Julian Assange of WikiLeaks is no longer a blonde. He's become a brunette. Boy, why did he do that? Has it got something to do with the fact that Assange's mother was married to a guy who was part of the Anne Hamilton Byrne cult in Melbourne, Australia, where all the kids, in addition to being given LSD and heavy-duty psychopharmacaa, the kids were all dressed alike, and they all had their hair dyed peroxide blonde, similar to what we've seen with Assange. Anyway, since we're with Assange in Australia, let's see if we can draw some lessons from the Australian election concerning what might be ahead in the U.S. and indeed in other countries. And I would just point, the most important trend that we have to be aware of is growing ungovernability. And this, of course, is worldwide. It is a trend towards ungovernability, which is the Weimarization of these societies. And a lot of the superficial political results from day to day reflect this. Now, what we see in Australia, it's a parliament with 150 members, and the Labour Party with Julia Gillard got about 72, 73 seats, I'm not sure. The center-right party, Liberal Conservative, I think it's called, of Tony Abbott, he's the successor of Howard, they got about the same. So there are very few sort of quirky and eccentric independents there, and they're going to become the margin for forming a government. So what this means is that Weimar-style ungovernability has come to Australia. They're not the only ones. In Germany, Angela Merkel lost her majority in the Bundesrat, the upper house of the German parliament, over the past few months. So she now has no pre-constituted majority for getting things through there. Sarkozy in France benefits from the Fifth Republic Constitution, which is going to create stability one way or another, at least on the formal plane. But he lost the regional election, so he's now got to deal with regional authorities who don't like him. The Japanese government of Hatoyama fell and is now replaced by Khan, who is somewhat more subservient to the United States. But the big thing is the instability. In the Netherlands, we had an election which led to a hung parliament. Couldn't really find an obvious solution. And in Britain, a hung parliament, right? The current coalition government, inherently unstable, is there. Berlusconi of Italy was able to successfully fight off an attack through the regional elections, which he won, in contrast to Sarkozy. But now we've got the defection of the neo-fascist Fini, which now indicates that there's going to be an Italian government crisis. Now, if that model of ungovernability, instability, no clear majority holds true, you'd expect the Republicans to take the House by a small margin. The Democrats might hold on to the Senate, or it might fall into Republican hands. The big difference in the Senate is the volume of investigations. But I think for the purposes of investigations, the House is already enough. And one of the things going on in Australia, I think, is people certainly got fed up with the Labour Party of Rudd and this Julia Gillard, but when they began to see Tony Abbott and his anti-Labour, anti-popular, pro-business, pro-banker policies, then they're horrified by that, and they're forced back into this situation where they really don't know who to vote for. I think that's essentially what's coming here to the United States. People are getting to the idea they don't like Obama, but then when they see the Republicans who got elected this past week, the Scott in Florida, Miller in Alaska, I don't think they're going to like them either. Interestingly, in Florida, Meek, the Democratic establishment candidate, beat Green, and in that election, credit default swaps on subprime mortgage properties became an issue and helped to stop Green, despite all the money that he spent on his election. So credit default swaps, a political issue. People in Florida now know that there are credit default swaps, and they're bad. At least Democrats know that. But now I have a document that is quite ominous for Obama. Here's the Washington City paper, which you can get for free in the subway. This is the issue 20th to the 26th of August. And the cover story is Adrian Fenty a jerk. Adrian Fenty is the mayor of the District of Columbia. He's practically the governor. It's like being governor of a state, more or less. Is he a jerk? He's not well liked. He was elected 6 years ago. He's a young black politician of the newer type, similar to Obama in many ways, similar to Deval Patrick in Massachusetts or the mayor of Newark. But is Adrian Fenty a jerk? It seems like a lot of people don't like him. They don't like his arrogance. They don't like his temper. His opponent is Vincent Gray, also a black politician, the chairman of the D.C. City Council, and we've had in every ward of the city, we've had these straw polls, and Fenty has been defeated uniformly in every one of them by the challenger, Vince Gray. So from 2006, he came in with hope and change, and he now looks like being defeated. Watch the results. September 14th, Tuesday, September 14th is our Potomac primary here, Maryland, Virginia, I think, and not Virginia, but the District of Columbia. If Fenty falls to Gray, and of course the Democratic primary is tantamount to actual election, if Fenty falls to Gray, that is very ominous for Obama, because these are similar political, cultural approaches, and of course it goes to policy too, because Obama and Arnie Duncan are interested in using charter schools and demagogy to bust the teachers' unions, and that's the centerpiece of what Adrian Fenty has done. When he came in 2006, he got rid of the school board, which had been running the schools, seized control of that, and installed an inveterate union buster, a torpedo, an operative. Her name is Michelle Rhee, and her big job is to fire teachers. He fires several hundred, 250 teachers every August get fired. And she brings in what amount to strikebreakers. I'm sorry, kids, but the Teach for America core of youthful idealists are being used as strikebreakers in the District of Columbia to crush the teachers' union. And I wonder, Randy Weingarten, why did you support Obama in the election if you didn't want this? So the policy line is quite clear. The finance oligarchs don't like free, universal, compulsory public education. It is the American tradition. It goes back to Horace Mann in Massachusetts, and it goes back to the Northwest Ordinance, right? That public education is going to be funded with public money, primarily at the level of states. So watch to see if Adrian Fenty falls on September 14th. That's a very bad sign for Obama. We'll be back in a minute with more analysis on World Crisis Radio.